Since there's been a slight delay on my next commentary, I've decided to work on something new while that rests on the back burner for a little while. Once these two projects are done, I'll immediately begin working on the next big project for my channel. Until then, I've decided to tackle something that's been bothering me as of late. So the fellow we're tackling today is a YouTuber named Kouhai Muller. He runs a channel that I can best describe as a low-budget late-night talk show where he talks about a lot of different topics, like things going on in the media, celebrities, and even YouTubers. Oftentimes he'll talk about people within the CC, and we're covering two of those videos today. The first one being his episode on Blaze the Movie Fan, as well as his episode on Showm's commentaries. For the sake of time constraints, there are certain things I'm not going to be covering from his show, like the puppet show and having his brother on the program. That stuff really isn't worth noting on my end because I get that this is just how he likes to do his videos, he has fun with it, and I respect that. Plus, it just kinda makes me look like an asshole. It's these beginning segments that I'll be covering for the most part, since they're the most important portions of his video and they bring up a lot of things that bother me about the way Kong approaches his topics. I'll be starting with his video on Blaze the Movie Fan first, since it'll be important to a few things that I'll bring up in his video on Showm's.
Points for Griffin Puff! Now, let's talk. Blaze the Movie Fan sucks. Why? He makes horrible videos, he can't speak properly, he can't even edit. And why did I say that? It's true. He never uses any graphics, intros, or outros on any of his videos. I mean, come on.
Alright, I do realize that Blaze's videos aren't million subscriber material except for maybe Mario pissing, which is unironically one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time.
Okie dokie then.
Though speaking as someone who has watched the guy for about 5 years now, I'll be the first one to step up and defend him from all of this. He can't speak properly? I really wish you'd expand on this point a bit more. I mean, his delivery isn't always great, but he's not impossible to understand. And that's just assuming that you weren't talking about his accent, because if you were, then that would be pretty disappointing. But like I said, since you didn't actually explain yourself, I don't know what your exact criticism with his voice is. However, I could turn that on you, since one of my biggest problems with your videos is how often I have to rewatch segments of your original video in order to fully understand what you had previously said, especially in videos where you speak very, very softly.
Man with love master. It's Mr. Ellie Cunningham.
Not trying to be an asshole, and I know you're trying to be mindful of your family members, which I do commend, but for your videos you should try to make your voice a bit more clear. And in regards to his editing, I decided to look in the comments section and found a comment where you say putting an image in the corner of the screen and adding a disclaimer isn't editing, which is completely untrue, but even with that fact out of the way, Blaze uses jump cuts to get rid of unneeded portions of his videos. If disclaimers and image placement isn't enough to convince you, then editing the raw footage of a video down to the essentials should do the trick. You use jump cuts too, that should already be enough to tell you that he actually does edit his videos. I mean, sure, his editing process is very simple, but he is certainly doing a lot more than what you're giving him credit for. Also, so what if he doesn't use flashy graphical intros or outros? You don't do that either, yet you seem to think that it's such a problem when it's absent from his videos. I understand that you mentioned that you can't afford decent editing software in this very same comment, and I guess that's fine. However, what if Blaze can't either? It's not like his edits require some $500 program. Hell, the program he uses costs under $100, and even then, everything he does can be accomplished with free editing software like OpenShot or Shotcut. And as a tip, perhaps look into software called iMovie. It may not be the best editing software, but it's more than fine for minimal stuff such as adding intros and perhaps correcting microphone troubles. It also comes free with most newer Apple devices.
I'm not the only person who hates his work. Commentators like Dual Trolls and Jonah Smith have done multiple videos about him already. Why? Let me explain. His videos are just like episodes of this show. Then again, this show is awesome. His videos are, let's be honest, pieces of
That was quite the jump cut. I'll assume you were about to say that his videos were pieces of sheer godliness and move on to my next point. I asked Jonah directly and he pretty much told me that he doesn't hate Blaze's work. He doesn't think too highly of his videos, but hate would be a strong word. Hell, just because Jonah and Doodle cover Blaze's videos doesn't mean that they hate his work, just that his videos are flawed and they have something to say about them. Also, what was that last bit you were going on about? I have absolutely no clue where the comparison between your videos and Blaze's was going to begin with, since you started by implying that there's a comparison yet transitioned into why your videos contrast one another in terms of quality, and then it just ends with a poorly timed jump cut. I don't know what to make of it or what the point was. Since you do edit your videos, I would suggest doing some kind of retake, then edit the original part out in post-production, or at the very least just cut out that whole segment entirely.
Alright, now, it's time for another topic list. Tonight's category: cover things that Blaze the movie fan should do right now. Number 8, make intros for his videos. Number 7, make outros for his videos.
I guess having an intro and an outro would be a good quality booster, though Blaze has told me that having an intro isn't really needed for his content. He prefers to get right to the point and not waste anyone's time. Despite that though, he does consider his signature
Hey guys, what's up? This is Blaze the movie fan.
to be his official intro, since it's consistent throughout all of his videos. I mean, it would help him out if he had them, but it's not exactly something that he needs to put in his videos.
6, do more research. Number 5, stop pretending to be an idiot on YouTube.
Pretending to be an idiot on YouTube? I'm not entirely sure what you meant by that. Maybe whenever you make these lists you should expand a little bit more, or else it just comes off as you being needlessly mean.
4, listen to all the other commentators who hate his videos. Number 3, remember that his videos suck. 2, fix his camera work. And number 1, actually start editing.
It's probably best for you to stick to giving constructive criticism and avoid these deconstructive insults. The point about his camera work was fine, and listening to other commentators, even though we just established that people don't really hate him just for covering his work. However, remember that his videos suck? You had some decent advice already, but that's not going to do anything for him. That's only here to put him down, which is just a low blow. Now, there is such a thing as hyperbole, and I'm not against anyone doing it for a little bit of fun, but I guess just avoid doing this specifically.
Now, I have a question for you folks. If you were in Blaze's shoes, then would you listen to my advice, or would you ignore it and continue to be a really bad YouTuber?
Here's the thing, I'm sure Blaze would be very happy to take some of your advice into account, but plenty of what you said was either poorly explained, not well thought out at all, and in some cases completely wrong, i.e. saying Doodle Tones and Jonah Smith hate his content, or just serve to say his videos outright suck, which kinda defeats the purpose of giving helpful advice. I get that you have a show with its own style, though when the comments you make about your subject are quite mixed and send very contrasting messages, then it isn't exactly easy to take everything you're saying into account. It did seem like there was a structure to your list, though if you took a little bit more time to explain yourself better and maybe expand on your top 8 lists, then it'd help you out in the long run. And as I said, I'm not gonna go too much further since everything else isn't really worth noting on my end, so we're just gonna dive into a segment on Shomes.
10 billion points for Griffin Puff! Now, he made some points on that particular video that make almost no sense at all. Let's go over them right now, shall we? I have the notes right here. Alright? Some people are more political than others. This is, referring, one of the remarks that I've made about, nobody should be, political anymore on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, but political humor sucks.
You're well within your right to feel that way, but Shomes was mainly criticizing your comparisons of Keyblade to political talk show hosts. Now, upon further inspection, I noticed that your comparisons were in regards to their behavior, like Jon Stewart. Keyblade and Jon Stewart are fairly energetic, which is why I enjoy watching both of them. Though when you say things like,
"It's trying too hard to be next Jon Stewart,"
then it's easy to misconstrue exactly what you're saying. Most notably the fact that the talk show hosts you referenced are political by nature and have humor that is centered around politics. So that's where you would start to lose people.
10 billion points for Griffin Puff! Alright? That Sean's commentaries guy? really wants me to fail. And he's very mean, too. Trust me, he is.
I disagree, considering that one of the many purposes of commentaries is to help and give advice, which he did. Hell, in the comment section of that video, many users, including me, offered some advice to you. None of us want to see you fail, we want to see you improve. Now, Shelms' approach wasn't exactly sugarcoated, and I guess you're more than welcome to get on his case for that, but he wasn't out to tear you down. At the end of the day, Shelms is another commentator that just does what he does for fun, and he was still trying to give you some advice. And just as well, I could reverse that on you and accuse you of being unnecessarily mean to Blaze in the earlier video we just covered. You did give advice in some areas, but your approach to covering his videos was just meant to put him down as a content creator, giving him a reminder that you think that his videos are shit, telling him he can't speak properly, things of that nature. So if you're gonna get on Shelms' case for it, I'll point it out on your end as well. If you're not pleased with him doing it, perhaps you should avoid it as well.
10 billion points for Griffin Puff! I have a question for you, Foley. Would you make a response video to Sean's commentaries if he did a video about you?
Well, in that regard, it all depends on the response, my friend. Now, if Shelms did a commentary on me, then I'd only respond if I felt like he was being unfair, needlessly cruel, or if what he was saying was just outright wrong. But aside from that, I'd just let it lie. Sometimes there are battles that you just don't need to fight. I realize that this was a little short, but I just wanted to get this out of the way since it was bugging me. Kung, you seem like a good guy. I have nothing against you. As a matter of fact, once you get the ball rolling more, your channel will likely head in a nice direction. Just take everything I said into account and you should be good. Anyway, now I'm gonna have to get back to working on my other fucking huge projects. Oh god.